we're on roads, now the smart motorway, the smart M4 is basically there, up and running. How are you finding using it? Because over the months and years, so many people, you've heard people call the show saying, I'll never use it. Once there's no hard shoulder, not safe enough, too scary if you break down, I'll never use the M4. I'd just be interested to hear the reality of it. I mean, I'm one of those people who thought, I really don't fancy this, but of course now I just use it. I mean, goodness only knows what'll happen if I break down, but now I just use the M4. What's your experience of it now you're using it as a smart motorway? Or are you seeing through what you said you'd do, which is to go nowhere near it because it doesn't feel safe enough without somewhere to pull over to if you break down? 0808 100 5100. This is interesting as well. I mean, one of the concerns is, of course, that, you know, if you break down and you have to stop in a live lane of traffic and wait for someone to come and help you, there's such a risk of whatever the overhead gantry signs say, someone driving into you because they're not paying attention. A lawyer now says a legal loophole leaves no one accountable if there is an awful accident that leads to someone's death or serious injury. Nick Freeman is a long-time campaigner against smart motorways and he's with us. Hi, Nick.
Good morning, Andrew.
Tell me about the loophole.
Very simply, national highways, we know as Highways England, don't owe a duty of care to the motorists. So obviously, whilst they say they prioritise safety, and I'm sure they do their best, the figures, statistics, and everything we know about them suggests they could do a lot more. So from a legal perspective, you can't take an action out against them when there is a fatality for corporate manslaughter. There have been several high-profile cases that have resulted in fatalities, and it's been made quite clear that there is a lacuna, a loophole, a hole in the law which doesn't hold them legally accountable for their failings, even when they are negligent.
Right. I mean, on the basis that this is a decision that government have made, laws have been passed, it's been decided to be safe enough, and therefore, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. That's just seen as being, bad luck?
I don't think that's the answer, because you can actually hold a government body to account in a legal way. They can be legally culpable. I'm not sure whether it's deliberately, whether there's a deliberate hole there to avoid accountability, or whether it's clumsy. But what is sure, what is certain, is it can be very easily rectified. Well, if you look at the minutiae of the statutes, I'm sure your listeners aren't interested in that at the moment. There's the Infrastructure Act in 2015, which says basically that they should be responsible for various things which would ensure our safety. And the word should be changed from should to must. In other words, it should become mandatory in guidance.
Something else I think is interesting on this is that we're in this weird situation with the M4, whereby the government, consistent transport secretaries, as well as motoring organisations, pretty much everyone now seems to accept that smart motorways without a hard shoulder are not a great idea. They do increase the risk of accidents, and they're not going to build any more. Apart from they consider the one we've got already built, and therefore they're not going to change it back. So even when the government have accepted this risk that we're all worried about, there's still no culpability.
You're absolutely right, Andrew. The truth is, they say they want more data over 5 years. 3 years have already passed for that, so there's only 2 years remaining, and they're completing literally everything that started. So they're not being honest with us. And the real truth behind these is that they're there, the infrastructure is there, so that come 2030, it will be very easy to have the technology in place to charge us for our use. And that, in my view, is the real reason. You've got the current Prime Minister a few months ago expressed grave reservations when he wasn't Prime Minister about this, said he was going to look at them seriously. Grant Shapps did the same thing. And now, of course, we have a complete change in policy. They're here to stay. They're going to happen because they were supposed to have refuge areas every 500 yards, every 500 metres, not 2.5 kilometres. So they're trying now to rectify that, and they're now saying we're spending, I think, £400 million doing that. That was in the initial budget. This technology, when it works at its zenith, when it's working perfectly, you imagine it takes about 16 seconds for them to flag the car up. You then have the motorist reaction time to close the lane and people to realise, I don't need to go in that lane. So you're there for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes before before people realise you can't go in that lane. It's just common sense. You need to have a permanent hard shoulder. It's as simple as that, and you do need to make national highways legally liable.
All right, Nick, thank you very much.